All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating paradox, something that's right at the heart of how we make progress. What if the very laws that are designed to protect new ideas are actually holding them back? Let's get into it.
So here's the big question, the one that keeps policymakers and CEOs up at night. If you want more breakthroughs, more progress, should you just make the rules protecting ideas stronger? You'd think the answer is a simple yes, right? Well, as it turns out, the data tells a much more interesting story.
You know, for decades, this whole debate has basically been a tug of war. On one side, you have the view that strong protection is a spur to innovation. It gives companies the confidence to pour millions into research and development. But on the other side, people argue it's a brake on progress, creating these monopolies that just kill off competition. It feels like you can't have it both ways. Or can you?
To cut through all the theory, a group of researchers went looking for a real-world test case. And they found the perfect laboratory in China, a market that's going through absolutely massive technological change, to see if the data could finally sell this innovation dilemma.
Okay, before we get into the juicy details, let's just make sure we're all on the same page. When we say intellectual property protection, or IPP, we're basically talking about the legal toolkit, things like patents, that gives inventors exclusive rights to their work for a certain amount of time. It's the system that's supposed to make innovating worthwhile. So the study dug into this massive data set of Chinese companies, covering almost a decade, from 2012 to 2020. What they did was pretty clever. They measured how strong IP protection was in different places and then compared that to how many patents companies were actually filing. It's a really direct way to see what's happening on the ground.
And what they found wasn't a simple more is better or less is better kind of answer. Nope, it was something else entirely. A surprising U-turn that completely changes how we should be thinking about this whole debate.
Yeah, it turns out the link between protecting ideas and actually creating new ones isn't a straight line. It doesn't just go up and it doesn't just go down. This right here, this is the crucial finding, straight from the paper. What it means, in plain English, is that at first, stronger IP protection does boost innovation. But, and this is a huge but, only up to a certain point. After you hit that sweet spot, making protection even stronger actually starts to hurt innovation. It's the classic Goldilocks effect. Not too little, not too much, but just right.
This visual makes the whole idea crystal clear. You can see it right there. With too little protection, why bother investing? So you get low innovation. In that just right Goldilocks zone in the middle, innovation is booming. But when you push protection too far, you create so many barriers and monopolies that new ideas start to dry up again. And get this isn't just a vague concept. The researchers actually put a number on it. Using their index, they figured out that the tipping point, the exact moment the benefits start to go backward, is right around 0.752. Go past that number and you start getting less innovation, not more.
Okay, so we know what happens, but the real question is why? What's going on under the hood that's driving this crazy U-turn? Well, the study found two key pathways that explain pretty much everything. Let's break them down. The first pathway is all about R&D spending. It starts out great. Stronger protection encourages investment. Competitors see this and they jump in, so spending goes up everywhere. But then this triggers an overinvestment frenzy, a race for the quantity of patents, not the quality. Pretty soon, the value of all these new, weaker patents drops, and firms are forced to cut back. You can see the entire rise and fall right there.
The second pathway has to do with information sharing. Again, stronger protection makes companies feel confident, so they start sharing more about their work, which is great for attracting investors and making the whole system more efficient. But then the exact same pattern plays out. That R&D frenzy leads to lower quality patents, their value falls, and suddenly there's way less incentive to share high-quality info. The system slows right back down.
But hold on, it gets even more nuanced. This inverted U-shape isn't a universal law that's the same for every company or every market. The environment a company is in can actually make this effect stronger or weaker. So the study found this effect is way more dramatic in state-owned enterprises, maybe because they're more risk-averse and react faster when they see patent values start to drop. It's also stronger in so-called innovation pilot cities, where government incentives create this super competitive environment. On the flip side, in markets where there isn't much competition to begin with, the whole curve just kind of flattens out. The rise and fall are much less extreme.
So what does all this mean for the people actually writing the laws? For governments trying to spark economic growth, this whole thing creates a huge challenge. How on earth do you design the perfect system? You know, the core lesson here is that intellectual property policy isn't about just turning a dial up to 11. It's an incredibly delicate balancing act. The goal isn't maximum protection, it's optimal protection. Because pushing too hard, even with the best of intentions, can end up doing more harm than good.
And this brings us to one final, really tough question. We've seen that this innovation curve changes depending on the market. So, if the sweet spot for the software industry is totally different from the sweet spot for biotech, how can one single national policy ever be truly optimal for everyone? And that, right there, is the innovation paradox. Thanks for joining The Explainer.